All right, so we got the P-6 right here, and basically the way that I love to use this is as a drum machine. I love to process my drums, manipulate them, use different techniques to make my drums sound good. So in this video, I'm gonna just try to go ahead and show you guys some of the techniques I use whenever I'm using this as a drum box drum machine. So first things first, I wanna go ahead and show you guys my setup. So the way I have the P-6 set up is all of my kick drums are on bank A. All of my snare drums are on bank B. And then we have hi-hats on bank E with different sounds that we can layer with our snare drum on bank F. So that'll be snaps, rim shots, tambourines. And keep in mind, a lot of these sounds are already processed. I already used half of the techniques in this video on some of these sounds. So, you know, I'll explain it as I go. But yeah, we also have open hi-hats, cymbals, and on bank C I have drum breaks. And then on bank G, I try to leave this one pretty empty just in case I want to add some more sounds to it. For the most part, that's how I have my Roland P-6 set up. And first things first, let's talk about layering sounds on the Roland P-6. So I love layering sounds because this whole bottom menu, I feel like it's made for that. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So say we had a kick drum. Nothing really too fancy with this kick drum. We want to go ahead and make this sound better. We want to layer other drums with this drum. One thing I would do is find a drum that can complement it. This drum, it has some some low end frequencies. This one has a lot of subs. This one's like kind of hollow sounding. This one has a bump. So I might use this one and this one because this has a nice like punch or bump on the low end. This one's a little bit more hollow. So I might be choosing between pad 3, 4, and 6. So I'm going to decide that this is going to be my main kick drum. Pad 4. What I would then do now is decide which frequencies do I want to shine. I want them subs to shine on pad 3. I like the low to mids on this drum. They sound pretty nice. And then this drum just has a longer tail. So first things first, I'm going to make some space for my sound. So I'm going to hold shift, press G sharp, and I'm on my subby kick drum. What I would then do is let's go ahead and add a a low pass filter so that we can take out the high end frequencies that we don't want to clash with those two kick drums. So now it sounds like we got most of those out. And all we have is that bump, that low end sub bump. Now with this kick drum, I will go ahead and add a high pass filter. So I'm going to use the pitch wheel to change the filter type. And for this one, let's go ahead and take out those sub low frequencies so they don't clash with our other ones. So let's see. Let's make sure we don't have any resonance because that can add a bump to our bass and actually add bass. So now our kick drum doesn't have as many subs. Let's go to our last one. We can do the same thing. We can do a band pass or a high pass. I'm going to keep it simple and just do a high pass. And I'm using this one for the tail. I like the tail end of this one. So let's go ahead. And now we should have our drums sequenced as well, just so that we can hear what we're doing. So I'm going to lay all my drums down. And let's see what we got. Okay. There we go. I felt like the bump wasn't loud enough on this bumpy kick. So I went ahead and just turned it up. So now, I feel like this kick drum, the transient, is a little bit too aggressive. The way I would fix that, going to shift, voice, which is shift and G. Let's go ahead and just take out the attack. Pitch will affect the attack. Let's see how it sounds. We just want that tail end. Let's make sure we have all our decay. Alrighty. So now we have a tail end. I feel like I can turn that kick drum up a little bit more. Okay. And let's just go ahead and figure out what we want to do with this one. I feel like it's sitting in a nice spot. Let's go ahead and take it out of the sequencer and see. It just adds a little bit more bump to the kick drum. So yeah, that's how I layer my drums on the Roland P-6. Just my thought process when I'm layering drums, whether if it's a kick drum or a snare drum and a clap. Let's say this. We got a snare drum. It's got a little bit of reverb on it. And say we wanted to layer this snare drum with a few more sounds. So let's go ahead. Let's go to our sequencer and let's take these kick drums off. Now we want to go ahead and layer pad number 4. Let's go ahead and sequencer it. And now let's find a sound that we want to layer with this drum. So I decided that I'm going to layer that snare drum with pad number 6, which is a tambourine. And we're going to go ahead and just place that on the same step as the snare drum. And let's see what we got. It sounds cool, but it sounds pretty obvious that we just layered 2 sounds together. Let's try to make that a lot smoother by using those same techniques I was using earlier. So first things first, I feel like this tambourine is just a little bit too loud. We can lower it. And another thing that we can do is, let's go to Shift G, which is going to bring us to the ADSR. Let's take out a little bit of attack, just so it's not really stabbing our ears with the transient. And then let's go ahead, lower the sustain all the way so that we can have control over the decay. And let's try to find a nice way to make this tam sound snappy, you know, not so loose. Okay, that sounds better. Another thing we can do is affect the pitch. Easy way to add some character to the sounds. Easy. So now our tambourine just sounds a little bit more cohesive with it. We can of course add effects like compression and stuff to make them glue together a little bit better. But I really want to avoid that because there's actually only 3 or 4 different effects I like to use to add character to my drum sounds. So let's actually talk about that right now. Of course, we have lo-fi, and this is a great effect that you can use on almost all of the sounds, whether if it's a kick drum or a snare drum. And it can just add so much character to it. But the thing is, you really want to go into the menu. So hold shift, press lo-fi, and really go ahead and try to find the sweet spot. Because each value sounds different. Okay, that's really extreme. Maybe like 110. You know, I can actually hear it. It's actually making a change. Let's go ahead and see with the kick drum. Let's see how it sounds. So we're at 38 with this one. Let's see how 39 sounds. 39 sounds completely different. So sometimes I really just go in here and find one that I like. Like 42 sounds pretty cool. So I might leave that. Another effect that I love to use to add character is going to be the vinyl simulator. This has different purposes. This can, you know, change the sound in different ways. So with bassy sounds, kick drums, I feel like it adds a nice bump or punch, almost like a little bit of saturation. So listen to that kick drum, really simple, but when I add a vinyl sim, turn the tone wheel all the way down and make sure there's no hiss. I don't want no wobbles, nothing like that. So now it has like a little bit of saturation. And if I use this tone wheel to kind of take out some of the low end frequencies, we can really get a whole new kick drum. 50 might be a little bit too extreme. But if I wanted to take out the lows, I could just leave it at 50 and layer it with another sound that has more bass. Another effect that is really good for adding character, let's say for kick drums at least, is cassette sim. And I really love to use control knob number 1 to kind of play around with the bass frequencies. I feel like as you change this value, it really does, either add or reduce the amount of bass. Similar to the vinyl simulator, but the cassette sim doesn't really add that bump to it, that saturation sound. So yeah, those are like the main 3 effects that I would use to add, some kind of character. And of course, I would use the compressor just to pump up the sounds and, get everything kind of even. But when we move on to the snare drums or claps or, anything like that in that universe, I like to use the vinyl sim to like kind of dirty up my sound. So say for example, let's take that lo-fi off. Let's take this reverb off. So now we have our natural snare, and let's go ahead and add vinyl sim. Of course, it's not going to sound any different because we're not really doing anything. We have all our values at 0. But when I move control knob number 1, I feel like it really dirties up the snare, and it gives it like a unique sonic. That's the best way I can explain it. Really entering lo-fi territory. Compared to really just dirties up the snare drum, and it like I said, it changes up the sonics. And I actually made a couple snares using the vinyl sim. This is one of them, and that's another one. And it really, like, I don't know which frequency that would be, maybe like the mids, but it really puts like a really crispy sound to the mids. I feel like it doesn't work for every snare, of course, but when it does, it sounds pretty good. We can also try to change the pitch. Like right here, I feel like that's a sweet spot. I can layer this drum sound with some other sounds, maybe a tambourine or something. Yeah, so we can do that. Probably layer it with a clap just to make up for the frequencies that we are removing on the top end, on the low end, and all that stuff. So really gets crazy, but let's go ahead and move on. So I've been showing you guys ways to layer drums and process those drums and stuff like that, which you might already know how to do. But let's talk about ways that you can use the Roland P-6 in a different way that I really haven't saw other people use it. Let's go ahead. I have a drum pattern. Let's see, I believe it's 9. Really simple drum pattern. And the reason why I wanted to show you guys this is because on this drum pattern, I went ahead and layered so many different sounds. So I have this kick drum is being used, this one is being used, this one is being used for that tail. And while I'm using, those kick drums, I'm also using this hi-hat on bank E. But I'm also using a drum break. So this is the drum break that I'm using. When you separate your sounds from one shots and drum breaks, the thing is when you chop breaks on the P-6, if you're using the chop feature, your drum break is going to be on one pad. So for example, the drum break on pad number 3. Anything that I do to pad number 3 is going to affect all the sounds that are being entered on the step sequencer. So let me go ahead and show you guys actually what I mean. If I had this drum loop playing and I was to raise the pitch of the drum break, and then we can go back, go up, bam. Now, I feel like that's just a pretty cool sounding technique that blows my mind in a sense. Like, it just sounds crazy, like, what's happening. And I remember I saw DiBiase do that on the OPXY. We had a massive, crazy studio session going on, and he did, like, that technique or that sound, and everybody in the studio started going crazy. I'll show you guys that clip. But yeah, I was actually really happy to find out that I can do something pretty similar on the Roland P-6. So, like I said, we have our drum break right here, and we just raise the pitch. But the thing is, when you raise the pitch, you're only affecting one pad. So that's why I like the fact that if you have a drum break, this technique is really cool. Say if you don't have a drum break and you want to do that same technique, you're going to have to use the pitch effect to try to emulate that effect. But the thing is, the pitch effect doesn't sound as good as, you know, of course, upping the pitch on the actual sample. So let's go ahead and see the difference. And when I turn on the pitch effect, all the drums, even the ones on bank A, bank B, all that stuff are going to be affected. So let's go ahead and see how that sounds. Let's do the pitch wheel. It's a really simple and easy technique. It sounds like really basic, but it sounds wicked. It kind of like messes with your mind when you hear it. So I love to use the step sequencer, and using the P-6 has really shown me that layering multiple sounds, even the same sound, can really give you I don't know, a different sound. I don't want to say better or worse or, you know, anything like that. But what I'm talking about here is my kick drum. So say if I had a kick drum, let's go ahead and just turn off any like effects or adjustments we have to these samples. Okay, so all of our kick drums are now no longer being affected by the voice menu. So the ADSR is not changing anything. So this is like the natural tells of the kick drums. And one thing that I found out is that you can layer the same you can layer multiple kick drums on top of each other. Of course, I just showed you guys how to layer it, but if you kind of use it sparingly, it can really add a lot of punch to your beat. Let me try to show you what I mean with that. So we can do something like, we can do a basic kick. Let's turn it up a little bit. Boom. Let's say on G sharp steps, G sharp. Let's add this kick drum. Boom. But the thing is, they're hitting at the same exact time. So, you know, of course we can go up in here on the voice menu and change the attack, make this one just a little bit more smoother. Let's see how it would sound. You know, it sounds smoother, but you can also just get a little sloppy with it. And when you hold the step, go to granular, press it 4 times, and go to time. And just play with the timing of the drums a little bit. And this is going to just make them sound a little bit more loose and natural. Let's go ahead and take that attack adjustment off. I feel like this one can be a little bit later. A little bit later. And let's turn it down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another kick right here, and I'm going to try to do the same technique. But instead of having the kick on the one, let's go ahead and do it right there. There we go. So it's like it just adds a little bit more life to that second kick right here. And not every kick is having that extra layered kick drum. So really, you know, just try to experiment. If you really want to add emphasis to a specific hit or a drum sound, whether it be a snare drum or a kick drum, try layering up those sounds when it matters, not every single time. And try to also just manipulate the timing of when that hit happens, because it can really make it sound a lot more natural when you have imperfect timing compared to perfect timing for every single hit. So like this second kick drum, it's not always hitting at the same time. It's not hitting at the same time as this one, and that's because I manipulated the timing. You can also get even crazier and hold the step, go to probability, and just lower the probability maybe like 70, 80%. So that can happen, you know, pretty consistently, but it's not going to always happen. And it can really keep the listener guessing. So yeah, this video is getting pretty long. I've been recording for like 30 minutes now. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Hopefully you guys learned something new and learned a few different techniques that you can use on your Roland P-6. This device is very capable of many things, not just drums, not just vocal chops, but a lot of things. So I'm going to try to experiment more with this device. If you guys have any different videos you would like to see from me, make sure to let me know down in the comment section below. And also, if you guys like the drum sounds in this video, make sure you check out the lowkeyshop.com. I have a few drum kits, some sample packs on there, and all the drums that you guys heard in this video are from my Knock Theory series volume 1 and volume 2, and I'm currently working on volume 3 right now, so make sure you guys check that out. But with that being said, you guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Peace.